Hello. So, welcome everyone on behalf of the Taos Institute. We are so pleased to have you on for this very first webinar in our new series, Pulsating Practices and Constructionism in Action. And just a word about the Taos Institute. So, we are a nonprofit virtual educational organization. We promote social constructionist, relational, appreciative ideas and practices. And we do so in many, many ways. So we have these free webinar series, we have courses, workshops, we have videos and podcasts available on our website. We also have over 90 free books in our WorldShare Books series that you can download from our website and from our online community, the Taos Institute Commons. So there are many ways to learn with us, connect with one another, and share these ideas. So I am Alex Arnold. I'm the executive consultant at the Taos Institute, and I'm very pleased to be here today with our hosts, Papusa, Molina, and Rocio, Chaveste. So thank you so much for agreeing to host the conversation. And before I pass it on to you, I will introduce Ken Gergen, our president and co-founder, to say a few words about this new series. So Ken?
Yeah, well, let me say just a little bit about the series, and then just try to introduce you to the speakers. What we at the Taos Institute feel that we've got an enormous wealth of talent and insight and creativity within the associates group. So why not try to give them expression? Share their wealth of some of these people during the coming years. So we decided pulsating practices sort of did it. Some practices which somehow make the heart beat, that give us a direction that inspire. And so we've set up, this is with Luc Schoenmacher and I, and the board said to invite a number of these speakers during the coming year. This is the first in the series, and I cannot say that it is only appropriate that Rocio and Papusa are leading the series, not only because the work they do is enormously inspiring, but they have been part of the Taos Institute almost since the beginning. We have worked and played with them for almost 30 years. So it's a great pleasure to have them here. They have been what I would think is sort of leading the way in terms of Taos Associates, in terms of what can be done. What could you create in the world? And it's that kind of spirit that I hope they will bring with them today, because the two of them have a long record, Papusa with in feminist issues, Rocio in family therapy, both of them direct the Kanankil Institute. And the Kanankil Institute itself is unusual, a degree-granting institute that works almost entirely with collaboration, collaborative learning, and co-creation. So I welcome the two of you here today. We're so glad to see you.
Thank
you. A gift to the world. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you, Ken. It's wonderful to be able to work together again. One more.
Okay, so let me just say, everybody, thank you for being with us today. I don't know how, where are many of you? We could see that it's all around the world. Thank you for being today with us. And we are planning to, I don't know if someone had, hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome to this space, because it's going to be open for everyone all around the world, and talk about what we are doing from social construction ideas and in today and collaborative dialogical practices. So very welcome, and please feel free to make your questions if you want to raise your hand, or you can write it in the chat. Thank you. And we will receive it. And we would like to just, if someone raise their hand or whatever, we are going to stop what we're talking, and then please feel free to talk about your questions or write it in the chat. So we want to make it more dynamic, everything we're going to do today. So,
and also,
Papus?
maybe also just 3 to 5 people, so we don't have time for everybody, who would like to share with us, why are you here? What are your expectations? What make you register for this, and not just register, but being here with us today? It will be great if you just raise your hand and tell us why you are here. 3 to 5 people, just to give us a sense of where you are. Somebody who wants to share?
Hey, Chris, go ahead.
Well, I'm here because 2 of my dear friends who I love dearly are presenting, and I know that they have important things to say. So I wanted to be here when they got to share. So that's why I'm here.
Thank you, Chris. Who else would like to?
Megan?
Oh, Megan.
I'm actually a student in a counseling program right now, and I follow Harleen Anderson, so the Collaborative-Dialogic stuff is of interest to me, and I'm just here to learn a little more about it.
Okay,
Thank you for being here, Megan. One more or 2 more? It is like
Megan, you can use the little reaction emoticons and raise your hand so we can see it.
Or maybe if I would do like, oh, Eva.
Hello, I would like to say hello to Rocio and all people who I met in Brno from Czech Republic. So I'm very happy to see you all again and looking forward to that we can meet each other again.
Thank you so much.
Let me see if in the chats there's something, Rocio.
Okay, let me see now, Janet.
I am a longtime student of social constructionism. I work with the Eastside Institute, which is doing a kind of a family resemblance of social constructionism. And what I passionately want to understand better is in the descriptions of the therapeutic work, I read that you're creating knowledge and meaning. And I wonder if that's just an artifact of the language, if it's something other in addition to knowledge and meaning. Is it a relationship? Is it emotional? I want to understand that better. And I'm only raising my hand because I really want to understand that better.
Great, Janet. Great.
Thank you, Janet. Okay.
So, Rocio, what do you think if I just give a very brief introduction about what we do, and then you talk precisely, maybe you can start as a psychotherapist, and then I talk a little bit about education. How do you feel about that?
Go ahead, please.
Okay. So the Kanankil Institute was created, well, more than 30 years ago. Really started with courses and little workshops, because there were 3 people, among them Rocio, colleagues, who learned about collaborative and dialogic practices first, and then about social constructionism. And they always said that they wanted to continue the dialogue. So finally, in 2004, we got a permission from the Ministry of Education to become a degree-granted institution. So we had, we granted degrees at the level of master, the MA, the equivalent in English of magister, as they call it in Europe. So we created different concentrations in the master program. One was directly into just psychotherapy. And then we have psychotherapy for families and couples. And then there was another one in addictions. And then we have another one that was really just concentrated in collaborative dialogic practices. Plus, in addition to that, all kinds of workshops and things in the middle. And usually we have collaboration from other colleagues at the Taos Institute, and also the network of international collaborative and dialogic practices. So since the beginning, the curriculum of the school was constructed on those bases. If we believe that knowledge gets generated in dialogue, that as Bakhtin says, without dialogue, there's no life. Life is constructed in dialogue. So from the beginning, these philosophical assumptions were the basis for our curriculum, you know? So on those bases, not just what was studied theoretically, but for example, the students since the second semester, they start doing consultation and supervision, beginning on the second semester. So they didn't need to learn all the theory, but they need to, from the beginning, as they were, quote unquote, learning the theory, they were applying their learnings. So that explains a little bit, and in a very general way, what is the school all about? What is the Kanankil Institute all about? You know, we have graduated over 500 students over the years, and that's what we do. We teach and we educate people coming from these philosophical assumptions that life is in dialogue, that dialogue generates knowledge. What is important is not what is in here or what is in your head, but what is important is how we come together. And what gets generated there is the basis for continue speaking and continue talking. So I think I will stop with that, Rocio.
Okay. So, no, I just wanted to say that our philosophical stance is, first of all, we work with postmodern ideas. Then the next umbrella is social construction, and then it's collaborative-dialogical ideas. And that's everything that through these umbrellas is what we just create all of these master programs and all our work. We have been working in government, we have been working in communities, we have been working in schools, and of course, doing therapy and working with our students all the time in therapy. And it has been very excited that at the beginning, they didn't believe in postmodern ideas, of course, social construction and nothing at all. They said that it was, even there were some schools that said that it was the devil. So it was really difficult to really try to do an official program. Very difficult. So at the first, for having the first master program, we have to wait for 6 years. Because they say no, 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 no. And after 6 years, they accept because we have to change all language. I remember that we talked with Harlina, she said, well, what do they want? Change the language so that they could really be more closer to those ideas. So that's what we did. And then it was the first one. And then we just continue. In many places, they just stop us because what we were talking, it was just terrible. And it was the devil who was in there in those social construction and postmodern ideas. But during the next years that passed, what happened is that many schools, for example, ask Kanankil students because the result of what they have worked in their universities or in some places, it was just amazing. So that helped us to make understand that we are with what we were working on. And I just want to say some before is that one of the first ideas that I got it is that we don't construct, the reality is construct in the social relations and not in here through language. That was my first impact of that. And then one day I told Harleen that with all of these ideas, I stopped fighting with the world, because that allowed me to understand that there was not a through, that there was not just one way of being and seeing life. And that helps us a lot in school. And of course, in therapy, it helps us to understand that the way that they come or what they want to share with us in therapy, in school, or in communities, or even in government, it's the way they see life. So getting in touch with others and creating language and knowledge through the relation with the other, with the relations with the others, that's what we are to continue doing, not only today in not only schools, but around the world where we are working in some places like Africa or other places. And this is our basis that we are doing, talking with the others. I think that one of the, when we work with, for example, with government here, I had the honor to work in the government of my city. And it was amazing that the 3 years that I was there, my only objective was to teach them or try to facilitate all of these ideas to the people that was in the place where I work. It was about 1,000 people. And what had happened in the years is that now, after more than 20 years, you can find the people that were with me working in the government. Now they are people that are part of the government, of the principles of the government, and they are doing things that you can see in the language and what they are doing, that it's from 20 years ago. So I think that the way that we had been constructing ideas, that we had been constructing our way of being, our philosophical stance, I think they have we can see and have the possibility to see over the years. We had that has been the Relational Research Network and how work with research. And I think that Papusa maybe would explain a little bit more about that.
Yeah, and I think that when we really understand how knowledge gets generated and the meaning is constructed, I always like to give very, quote unquote, simple examples. If we decided that we are going to call this, that is a bottle, is a thermos, has water inside. If we decided, we agree in this group of people that this is going to be called a chair, for example, then we will understand, because we created that language. We decided how we are going to call this. And we said, there's a green chair that Papusa has in her hand. Other people outside this community will say, they are crazy. That is not a chair. That is a bottle. And that's okay. For them, it has a different meaning. But for the purpose of this community today, this is a chair. And it seems like a very dumb or a very simple example, but in a way, I remember one of the first times I heard Ken, and I think I got to translate him into Spanish, that he was saying that depending in our context, in our perspective, is what I see and perceive. Like an elephant in the middle of the room, there's people that will just see the trunk, or will just see the tail, or will think that there are big trees because they will look at their legs. But very few people, and maybe when we start putting together what each person perceives, maybe we come back with the idea, oh, it's an animal. And then we can call it an elephant. And then that's how meaning gets constructed, is when you, I would love for you to, before I go into research, for you to talk about that couple therapy where the woman was saying, he doesn't love me, he's just, he's with me because it's convenient for him. And then
Yeah.
happen in therapy. Maybe that example could be a good one also, Rocio.
Yeah, it was a couple therapy, okay? And they were about 60 years, more or less, both of them. And in some point, she just came, they came to my office and said, Rocio, I just can't go on with this man. And I said, why? Well, he never said to me that he loves me. He said that for him was convenient to marry me. And I said, oh, and what happened with that? I can't anymore, Rocio. I can't anymore. Because if he didn't love me, how can I be with him, even though I have been 40 years with him? And I said, okay, so let me ask him. And what do you think about that? And he said, Rocio, I always tell her that for me was the most convenient thing I did in my life. And I said, so, but he doesn't say he loves me. So they were fighting all right. I said, okay, let me know more about what do you mean by love? What do you mean by convenience? And let's construct something, build something together. But I said, but I want him to say, I love you. And he said, well, do you want that? I can say, I love you. And that's it. No, that way I don't want. So tell me the story. What happened? Why you say that was convenient? And he told me a story that his father all the time was saying that he had to marry with someone that was convenient for him, even though he was in love or whatever, that he had to marry with someone that would be convenient for him, for him. And all the time that was the discourse at home. And when he met this girl, this lady, he said, I think she's convenient for me. And he started a relation with her. But then his father was dying in some point, and he's asked him to marry with her. And he said, okay, let's get married. He asked her to marry because the father wants him to marry with a girl that was convenient. So he married her, and he said that it was convenient for him. And they marry or whatever. And all the time she was, during all of these years, asking him to tell him that he loves her. And he said, well, I can tell you, but that doesn't mean anything for me. But tell me in the way that you really feel it. So then she said, well, I had to remember that story. Yes, I can understand. But even though I would like to say, I would like to receive an I love you from you. So we start talking about that. And they said, okay, if you could name in this moment what you feel, and let's construct together a word that allows both of you to feel love or whatever, or convenience or whatever you have. So they began to create a word. They began to create a word together in the session and talking about, okay, maybe this, no, maybe no. So they, at the end, they create a word with the names, the first syllables of the name of their daughters. And that was the meaning they gave to their relation. But it's, in this moment, it has been created a local word, a local language within us, and of course within the couple. And they were really happy because they had created, as Rolla says, knowledge as relational and as performative, in the way that they were just creating the word that explains for both of them the love they feel or the convenience they feel about the couple. So I think it's an example of the way that we work in therapy and the way that they create, and we create together with our clients, consultants, or patients, or whatever, the way that we create a local language that allows us to transform to, we are conversational partners, and we are starting to create all the time new things that allow them to open new possibilities in their lives. That's what you were asking Papusa.
Yeah, because that's a wonderful example of how you generate a new meaning and new language in psychotherapy, and how your clients were capable to come together to a new understanding of who they are and their relationship. And that story for me is very linked to research, that we call it dialogic social inquiry, because traditionally research comes from somebody up here that is called a researcher, that goes and study about a subject, and then from his or her perception, his or her context and background, this person gets some conclusions or gets some knowledge generated based on that. But usually the subjects of research, and I'm talking about social sciences, especially social and human sciences, the subjects of research provide all kinds of information, and they never are the authors. They never get the credit. They never can decide how that knowledge will be used, or they never have to agree or not agree with the conclusions of the study. So one of the things that all our students need to graduate is they need to do a thesis based on dialogic social inquiry. Mm-hmm. And what it means is that the only thing they kind of choose is the topic. And then they invite people to participate who have some interest in the topic. And they invite these people because they are people who have experience, who have knowledge, who have, for example, somebody wants to learn about domestic violence. So they invite people who have been participating in relationships that are violent. So based on this idea that I'm not the expert on your life, you are the expert on your own life, then they start conversations with people about what is it mean to live with domestic violence? they transcribe all these conversations. There's not a set questionnaire. And every story is different because there are different human beings with whom they are talking. Once they get this, what happened is the researcher enters into conversation with the transcribed text and give it back to the participants. And the participants read it and said things like, did I really say that? Or what I meant to say was this, or I don't agree with your idea. They enter into a dialogue again, and they go about these dialogues 2 or 3 times, no more, like 3 to 5 times, until they feel that they have generated something about domestic violence that has a meaning, not just for the researcher, but also for the people participating in the research. Then they look about what others have said about domestic violence, and then they read authors or other researchers. They talk again with all the participants. And at the end, the thesis could go forever. But when they decided that they have enough knowledge generated, enough information given and agreeing, and the concepts make sense for the ones participating, then what they do is they say, okay, the thesis is finalized. And it's not until the participants really approve the whole document that then we, as advisors of the thesis, really, quote unquote, approve the thesis. And usually the participants, they are asked if they want to use their names. And most of them want to use the real name. There's no anonymous. There's no subject 1, subject 2, subject 3. And the richness of what is generated is incredible. And how it got generated through constant dialogue, to a relationship that gets constructed in these dialogues. And therefore, the knowledge generated, the conclusions, that is traditionally called conclusions in a dissertation or in a thesis. We always call it what I learned about this process. Then that's what gets presented to the public. And so this is an example also of how do we use the principles, the philosophical stance of social construction and collaborative dialogic practices to learn together. The same in the classroom. Yeah, the students read and we give them articles by Ken or by Harleen or by Sheila McNamee or by John Schotter or by Marilene Grandeso in Brazil or whoever. We give them something to read, but what is important is not what they read. They are not going to take a test on what Ken said, but what is important is how do they understand what Ken said, how we understand it. We have a dialogue about it, and then they write, quote unquote, final papers for the class about what did they learn about Ken ideas in the dialogue with the professor, but also with all the other students in the class. So it's not what I learned from Ken, but what did we collectively learn and understood Ken's ideas?
Yeah.
Some people will understand them from this perspective, and some other people understand it from this other perspective, and doesn't mean they are right or wrong. Because quote unquote, Ken, not even what you said is right or the truth, but it's an idea that you put in writing and that the students can interact with that idea with other students and professors, and then figure out what is that you Ken were talking about in this paper. So that's another example of how do we work in class. They asked us, many of you wanted concrete examples of what we do. So those are the kind of things we do.
And I would like,
it's 20 minutes left. If there are questions.
Yeah, I know. Let me just tell something else or add something else. Always we are open to invite all the participants in the thesis or in the final text to be part of the exam, the final exam. So that allows them to talk about their experience with the Kanankil student and talk a little bit about what was the process. And that for us, it's really interesting to hear what they passed through all the conversations, the relationships they had created, and all of those things. And that gives us another perspective of the final work in the last exam. When they present their thesis.
Okay.
And yeah, I know.
Rocio, there's a question in the chat. It
Okay.
says, which element made the big success in your long year attempts to work with social construction?
I think that first of all, for us, it has been a philosophical stance, not something that is very theoretical, because we have been working with social construction and collaborative dialogical practices as a philosophical stance. That means that we try always to be collaborative. It is not that we are always transforming and being a collaborative person. Sometimes we can, sometimes not, but what we would like, or what we like every time, is try really to get engaged with a philosophical stance. And that I think that helps us to, if we do therapy, if we do teaching, if we do whatever we do, try to be more open to what is happening outside, what it's the others thinking, doing. And of course, we have a concept that is very important, the not knowing position from Harding, that it's that how can we open as much as possible to the things and being curious all the time, open to learn from the other, not us. And I think that's open for creating more possibilities for everyone and for us. So I think that's one of my answers. I don't know, Papus.
Yeah, and also that we don't hold the truth with capital T. You know, we can offer how we understand this. We can invite, and I purposefully using the words offer and invite. We can invite people to enter into a relationship, into a conversation with us, or into doing things together, that concept of witness. And witness, you have never heard this concept, is not witness, like WITNES, but witness, that is WITHNES. So to be with the other. And it's hard because sometimes you get to work with people that are completely opposite to you. Thank you, Rola, for writing it in the chat.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And sometimes it's very difficult because maybe you get to talk with people who have a complete different vision of the planet, of political issues, of their lives. And what is that you bring to that conversation is something that you keep trying, no? Is what Harleen said. You just keep trying. And you just keep inviting people to the conversation. And sometimes people just want to be listened to. So even if they say the completely opposite to you, if they perceive that you are listening, really listening and trying to understand where they are coming from, sometimes their positions start shifting. And sometimes you don't even see it immediately. But one day they surprise you, how they shifted and got transformed just by your openness, your being there, and your listening.
I just want to add something, and has been very interesting. In some point years ago, a member of a political party came to Kanankil to ask a space for dialogue. And I said, well, of course, Kanankil is open for that. And he said, but I would like to bring another members of other political parties to decide something for the city. And I said, okay, if you want the place, it's open for you. And what do you need from us? And I'm really curious about why you decided to have the meeting here in Kanankil. He said, well, we know that Kanankil is an open space, and you welcome every position, political position. And we know that you open for dialogue and you create a space for that. And we would like you to be there and help us in the conversation. So it was really interesting to, first of all, hear what they were waiting from us, what they expecting from us, and to ask for the place for having this difficult conversation. So they arrive, and we just give them welcome and whatever. And I said, well, how can we be helpful? And they asked, well, just to help us not to get in that we didn't hear each other, to allow us to talk, and then we will decide, of course, or what are we going to do. And I said, okay. So they began going there for a few sessions and talk. And it was amazing that what they were asking us is to open the space and create the space for dialogue. So, but we just, okay, maybe why don't you use 5 minutes, then 5 minutes or whatever, but it was like relational ethics, to talk about how can we talk first, and then we just start talking. And that was another example, for example, of what do we do with all of these ideas and umbrellas in which we work every day. So that's another example.
And Rocio, maybe we have just like maybe less than 10 minutes.
Wow.
Pause for a moment and see if people who are here have ideas, questions, contributions, reflections. Ken says, let's see, how do you bring conflicting parties into productive dialogue?
We spend a lot of time, maybe 5 sessions or something like that. But what they were, it's like, okay, let's start maybe with 5 minutes and then 5 minutes and there was someone that was writing. Then afterwards, they said, okay, we had already listened. Let's have like small groups, but in different, with different people, that not just one party. And they just began asking them. Of course, at the beginning, it was to really relate with the other. They have a coffee, and we talk about who we are and all of those. It's for creating the relationship. And it was easier because many of them knew it before because of the families. Merida, it's a small place. So, and we just start doing that way. First, creating the relation so that the project would be sustainable. And so after that, what they said, okay, why? And I asked them, what would be my part and my position in this? Please just, if we just get up with the words or with the sound of the words, just mark us that what are we doing? And so they were really eager to have this conversation, but they didn't have a space, that it was not in the governmental office, but in some other place that would be helpful for them. It was about 5 sessions, and they just continue talking and talking and talking, and then sometimes have drinks or something like that so that it would be easier. And it was, I don't know if they found what they were looking for, but what they said is that they can continue the conversations after all of these meetings in a different place.
And also,
at the beginning,
just answering a little bit also to Ken, yeah, there are moments where the conflict comes in, and as facilitators, we let the conflict happen.
Yeah.
And let's sit with the conflict. And sometimes we just ask people to listen to the other. We know you two don't agree. We know that you really want to push your ideas into the other person. And I do understand that, because you think you are right and you have the truth, but they also think they are right and have the truth. So let's for now just agree to listen to each other. And I'm going to say something that may be very controversial, especially now in the US. But during the first time that this person that is a president wanted to be a president, and I heard MAGA for the first time, Make America Great Again, I said, great, we all want that. We want America to be great again. Now, how do we do it? It's different. But if they just heard that we want the same thing in a different way, I don't know what would have happened. I don't know. I'm not talking about what is going on right now. I'm just saying how a phrase that seems so divisive, probably we all agree with the phrase. Now, what we mean by that may be different. How we go about it may be different. And that's where the dialogue starts. Okay, what do you mean by this? What do you mean by this? How do you want to accomplish this? How do you want to accomplish this? Where do you think we agree? Where do you think we disagree? Where are the intersections? Where do we come together? Where do we walk apart? And in this moment, it just came to my mind the work that they were doing in Boston, Rocio. How was it with this woman, Hard Conversations, Public Conversations Project?
Public Conversation Project. With
Many years ago, they did that. And they have these incredible conversations between Muslims and Jews, and between white and people of color. And the first thing they did was to build the relationship.
Yeah.
So I don't know if the Public Conversation Project is still going, but that's what's her name, Rocio? I'm not
Sally Ann Roth.
She started, I don't know if she's there anymore, but the other people, I don't know if the project's still going, but this is a great project to look at it.
And another thing that maybe help, Ken, is that, for example, we had been now in conversation with judges and lawyers in Ecuador that they really want to have conversations with the NGOs or the NGOs with them to learn a little bit about what they, both of them, want. So it hasn't been easy, but now they really want to know more about how are we doing things, and they would like to know more about how they can be more human. I don't know how to explain that, but they have been asking, and the other day Harleen had a meeting with them and with us in Ecuador, by Zoom in Ecuador, and there was judges, there were ministers, there were lawyers, and they were really interested in this, to have a new way of relating or creating relations with the NGOs, and that the care for children and families would really be a success. So I think it's another example of and maybe it's the way we talk, maybe it's the way we relate, maybe it's the way we continue in the philosophical stance. I don't know.
And I think we are getting at the end, Rocio. So, we can talk for hours about this in different ways, but we had just 1 hour and there are just 6 minutes left. I don't know if Lo wanted to say something, or
yes. Thank you, Papusa. Thank you, Papusa and Rocio. Well, I was really enjoying this conversation and all these practical, not only practical, but wise insights you were sharing with us. So thank you very much for this. It showed me again and again and again that the social construction is so important in these days and also in our future when we look at the world these days. So thank you very much for sharing this with us. I made some notes, and one of the things I just wrote down was, how can we understand each other? And how can we come into relation with the other? That's what I hear you saying, which is very important, I think. How can we really listen to each other? And mostly I think we listen, well, not really open or with this curious mind you are talking about, because, well, we are mostly blind people, I think. So it's so important. So thank you for sharing this. Yes, we are at the end of this first session, and I think it was very successful having you and having the audience today. I want to announce the next one, which will be at the 5th of March. Then we will have Hilary Bradbury, who is also Taos Associates, but also very experienced in action research using for social change. So you were also talking about this idea of research and using research for, as Ken is telling us, for making new futures. So the 5th of March, at the same time, we will meet Hilary Bradbury. So thank you for today. I don't know if Alex or Ken wants to add something.
I have put the link to the next event in the chat, so it's available in the Taos Institute Commons in our online community. So you can find the recording for today's conversation. In a few days, it will be available in our event replays library. And then all the next events are posted there. So feel free to spread the word and share and invite others to join us next month. But thank you again, Papusa and Rocio. It was really lovely to have you. We're very appreciative, and thank you all for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Wonderful.
you.
And see you next time.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
Bye-bye.